Welcome back to Dan Plus Water, everybody. As always, I'm Dan. Thank you for sticking around these past 6.5 to 7 months until I could get this video created. As usual, work schedules and home life just keep getting into the way. Today is a little DIY video that I technically should have done last year in November before ice started forming on our bodies of water. We're going to learn how to build what's commonly called an ice rescue rope rig. However, I have seen it used on open bodies of water, such as our rivers, lakes, and ponds. So let's jump right on into it and start having some fun.
One of the first things you are going to do is go around to the different bodies of water in your area and judge the distances from the shoreline to about halfway between the other shore. In most instances, my area was roughly around 150 to 180 feet. Therefore, I chose a 200-foot rope. Alright, so what we're going to do first is create what's called a figure 8 on a bite. You're going to take the tail end of your rope, give yourself enough material, and make a loop. This down here is what's called the bite. Take that, go behind the end that goes back towards shore and the tail, come up over top and back down the hole that was created. Then pull on the loop to set the knot. You want to look over the loop and the knot to make sure that none of these are crisscrossing each other. That way they form a nice smooth figure 8. Once we've created our figure 8 on a bite, we are ready for step 2, which is the inline figure 8. So from the first knot we created, count yourself out about 10 to 12 feet. Take the tail, bring it back up, flop it back over the rope that goes towards shore, take it behind, then over, and then we're going to go behind the first 2 ropes that we created and come back up through the hole. Then we pull, set, and dress the knot. Again, we are making sure that none of these ropes are crisscrossing each other. And it should end up looking like that. The loop will be pointing towards, I call it the working end. It may not be the correct term, but it's going to be in the water where the rescuer is doing the work. And this part is going to go back towards shore where your people are going to pull from. The main thing to point out with inline figure 8s is that they are a directional only pull loop. It's safe to pull back towards shore. If you pull in the same direction as the loop from, again, I'm probably not calling it the correct term, but the work side end, you can actually invert the loop and it'll come undone. So on the rescue rope, you should have something that looks very similar to this. The next step is to get yourself 2 locking carabiners that are climbing rated. Climbing rated is usually 25 kilonewtons or more, and you definitely want to make sure that they are a locking style carabiner, whether it is a twist lock or in this case screw lock. One is going to go on your figure 8 on a bite, which will be attached to the rescuer. Now, if it's a scuba diver, most of the times it'll be hooked to either their BC, the buoyancy compensator, or some other harness that they have. When it comes to ice rescue, most commercially made ice rescue suits have a harness built in with a big D-ring, and again, that's where you're going to clip this carabiner. The carabiner that goes on your inline figure 8 will end up hooking to the victim rescue harness that we're about to create. For the purposes of demonstration, we're going to be using our practice harness. That meaning these are just typical tubular webbing that water knots were put into each end, because this will end up getting used and abused quite often. During practice, sometimes it'll put tears into the webbing, and you don't want to use in practice what you're going to use for an actual rescue. The strap that is used for an actual rescue, I will put a link into the description. Once you do have your harness webbing, you will feed it through a pool noodle that you can get at any hardware store, pool store, etc. You take your webbing, feed it all the way through till you come out at the other end. These are roughly going to be around 4 foot. Your strap should be just about 4 foot, and again, I'll put a link to that strap in the description. Surprise text from the wife. With one side of the strap, you will end up hooking that into the carabiner that is attached to your inline figure 8, and then make sure the locking mechanism is tight and does not open. The other loop that comes out of the harness that you've created, you will need to purchase a large non-locking carabiner. They should be rated for at least 1,000 pounds if you get one from a hardware store. However, through Dive Rescue International, they do make an aluminum one that is rated for rescue, and I will put a link to that one also in the description. Because of a legally binding contract being an instructor for Dive Rescue International, I am not allowed to teach the techniques used to actually perform the rescue. I would strongly suggest, if you are interested, to go find a certified instructor and take an ice rescue class to become certified in it. That being said, with the harness that was created, typically the rescuer will enter the water behind the victim, come up behind them, and will fish the harness underneath their arms. The rescuer will then reach over and attempt with the big carabiner to lock the little carabiner, or if he's unable to do that, at least lock in either the webbing or, if need be, the rope itself. The first one being, try to get the carabiner, because that way when you pull on the rope, it will not cinch up and end up squeezing the victim. Again, we try to hook the carabiner if possible. That'll conclude our DIY project for the day. Like I said, unfortunately, I am not allowed to teach the techniques used in ice rescue. I would highly suggest that, again, if you're interested, go seek an instructor and get professional training. That way you can use the rig that you built with me today to go out and save lives. That'll end it for today. Hope everybody stays safe, has a great summer ahead, and I will see you on the next one.